welcome back to the channel and part 4 in a series about how to customise and maintain your Microcat. Last episode I ran through the lithium batteries that I use, installed a remote switch on the boat so there's no external power button, rewired the boat and also rewired the LEDs. This episode I'll be running through how I modified the lid so that I can access the boat without having to unseal it each time I need to get inside it, whilst also keeping it water resistant. Apologies for the delay in getting this video out. I went through various design ideas and prototypes before coming up with the final design, so I'll quickly run through the ideas before I show you the final design. Version 1 was to reseal the lid to the hull and cut out 4 sections in the lid to gain access. The 4 cut out sections would be held in place with neodymium magnets set in flanges glued inside the hull, but I quickly binned that idea as getting a decent seal around the various curves in the lid was going to be pretty hard. Version 2 was to get a couple of acrylic sheets laser cut out which have lips glued to the tops of them. These would then be sealed to the hull. Then a couple more sheets would be cut for the lid to sit on. Once glued together, both of the pieces would be held together with magnets again to hold it shut. The original lid would then sit over the top of the 2 pieces. I got a drawing over to Phil at Kent Lasercraft, who was really helpful with prototyping the design. I'll put a link in the description for Phil's website. Phil definitely knows his stuff when laser cutting acrylic and cut out various samples for me to review, helping us out with improvements to design and the structure of it. So following this, I came up with version 3. This was a slight change to the original design, but would have 4 sections instead of one great big one. Again, all would have lips and flanges, which would be held together with magnets, but the structure of the main part, which is sealed to the hull, would be a lot more rigid. As with version 2, the original lid would sit over these pieces once attached to the hull. So here's a prototype Phil cut out for me of version 3, showing how the main piece that's sealed to the hull fits together with the 4 lid sections. The tiny holes around the lips are where the magnets would be glued into the acrylic that hold the pieces together. So once I was happy with the design, I went over to Phil's workshop to check out the pieces being cut on his laser. Here's a couple of shots I got whilst over at Kent Lasercraft. Some of the 4mm pieces being cut and some of the 2mm pieces. The main large piece would be cut out of 4mm acrylic along with the flanges and lips. Then there'll be some pieces cut out in 2mm acrylic which would act as the lids. The total cost of the materials and cutting was around £95 at the time of getting them cut. Before I started gluing and sealing anything back on the hull, I just wanted to check that there was no leaks or issues with the boat before doing so I took it out for a quick spin down my local pond. The batteries in the boat are still held at their storage charge when I took it out, so only running about 15.2 volts, whereas when at full power it would be around 16.8 volts. I didn't take the boat out very far either, as there was no lid on it. It was just giving it a quick spin to check everything had worked, that there were no leaks and it was going in straight lines. Next up, as the lid was effectively going to sit over the top of the new sealed down acrylic, I went about deleting out the battery openings and the rear recesses in the lid. This was all done with a Dremel cut-off wheel and a sander to remove any material from the inside of the lid. As the holes on the lid were going to be sealed with fiberglass, I got some blue painter's tape to cover the holes up with. This doesn't stick to the fiberglass resin, but does follow the contours of the lid, so the resin is set roughly to the shape of the lid. Then it was just a matter of filling the holes with the resin and adding a couple of sheets of fiberglass tissue to fill the holes. Here's a shot of the main piece which will be sealed to the hull, along with the lips that go around each of the holes to gain access to the boat before I started to glue everything together. The lips act as a barrier to stop any water from getting into the boat underneath the top sections that are held down with the magnets. Next up, I went about gluing the 2mm lid sections to the 4mm flanges that would sit over the top of the lips of the main section. These were glued together with something called Tensile 12, which is an acrylic cement. This effectively welds the 2 acrylic surfaces together and forms a super strong bond. Then I went about super gluing the magnets into each of the holes cut out by the laser cutter. These all needed to be glued in the correct polarity to ensure the 2 sections when fit together would attract and not repel each other. I then went over each of the magnets with some CA accelerator to speed up the gluing process. So here it is all glued together with the magnets installed along with the lid sections attached to the main section. And here's how it looked when it added to the boat. As you can see, the magnets holding down each of the lids work pretty well and definitely require some force to remove them. Then I went about filling the deleted battery holes with some filler just to tidy up the fiberglass in the lid from the inside. This took a couple of layers of filler just to get the shape of the lid looking right. Before I sealed the main section of the lid to the boat, I wanted to replace the original polystyrene foam that came with the boat with some custom black foam. This would allow for the bigger batteries to be secured inside the boat, along with the sonar transmitter. These could have been cut out with a knife, but I built myself a foam wire cutter out of an old brush speed controller and a servo tester I had lying around. This definitely helped when cutting certain angles in the foam. Drop a comment down below if you'd like to know how to build one of these. If I get enough requests, I'll put a video together. Then lastly, I just needed to re-grease the hopper release mechanism before sealing the lid to the hull. So this is the stuff I seal my boats with. It's Dow 791 and apparently it's the same stuff Angling Technics use to seal up their boats. I just needed to apply a small bead around the hull lip where the new lid section will be sealed to the hull. Then I just laid the new lid section onto the bead and let it dry overnight. So here it is finished. I just covered the lid sections with some black vinyl car wrap I bought from Amazon. Well, at least I thought it was finished. Unfortunately, as much as I like what I'd done, I couldn't get the original lid to fit over the new section as well as I hoped it would, and being a perfectionist, I was back to the drawing board for the fourth and final version of the lid mod. This included me keeping the main section with the lips sealed to the hull, but required me to cut up the original lid to build sections that would fit the new flanges that sealed the boat. So it's back out with the Dremel to cut up the sections of the lid to start building the new sections to seal the boat. Here I'm just tidying up the deleted recesses from the rear section with some more fiberglass and car body filler before gluing that section to the rear lid flange. Then I dremeled off the 2mm section I originally glued to the flange. One good thing that did come out of me having to redo the lid sections is that I've got a lot more space inside the boat now, so I can add new parts inside the lid sections without them having to be inside the actual boat. Here's the port and starboard lid sections before I glued them together with the sections from the lid. And here's how it looked after I'd finished all the new sections. I had wet and dry sanded the lid sections at this point too, ready to be rewrapped in vinyl. And here's me wrapping the final parts. The wrap wasn't the most expensive you can buy, so it did take a couple of tries to get it right. Also, my sanding and finishing of the final parts wasn't the greatest either, but some of the wrap will need to come off at a later date when I have to do the advanced LED mod, so it'll do for now. Here's the front lid section after I finished wrapping it, which I was pretty happy with. And here's me wrestling with the rear section. I thought I was pretty good at wrapping, but these parts really tested my wrapping skills. The key to it is definitely a good heat gun and lots of patience. So here's the front and rear sections done. You can see what I mean about the sanding and finish of the rear section. Just looks a bit lumpy where I deleted some of the recesses. And here's the port section done. And finally all the sections completed. I painted the top section with some black enamel paint just to tidy it up so it matched the rest of the parts. And here's how the lid section is now snapped to the whole lid with the magnets. As you can see, it takes a little bit of force just to open them up. And a final shot of it out in the sunshine. As I mentioned before, my finishing and sanding of the final pieces isn't the greatest, but I'll potentially redo these at a later date. Next up, I stuck some 1mm thick neoprene self-adhesive tape to the lips on the main section. When I drew the lips and flanges in CAD, I left a 1mm gap between the two pieces to allow for the tape to be added. This basically stops any water from seeping through between the two pieces. And here's a shot of the main section after all the lips have been covered with the neoprene tape. Once this had been finished, I took it out for another test down the local pond to check if there were any leaks or was any water getting in, which there wasn't, so it was on to the long range test. This test actually came from a subscriber who wanted to know what range I could get out of the boat and the receiver signal strength indication I was getting on my transmitter. So around 100 yards I was getting 48% RSSI, and at 150 yards where I could barely see the boat I was getting 43% RSSI. Here's a shot from Google Earth of the distance the boat travelled. So that's it, the lid mod's complete. Links to the SVG and Adobe Illustrator files for lid drawings are downloadable from my Google Drive for getting them laser cut out. Links are in the description. Next episode I'll be adding a downward facing camera and a video transmitter to the boat. So I'll run through what I use and how I wire those up. I'll also run through various different camera setup options, including a 3-way camera switcher for controlling up to 3 different cameras from a switch on the transmitter, if you can find a reason to have 3 cameras on your boat. So thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel if you like content like this. I'm planning on doing more series like this in the future with different boats, so if you have a boat you'd like to see upgraded, drop a comment down below. Also check out my other videos on the channel, these will give you an idea of what you can expect in the coming episodes. Till next time, keep modding.